and our connection's not going to be great. Like it's going to be, I know, she's disgusting. She's got vomit on her.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, doggies.
And the connection's also shifty.
Crappy.
Oh yeah, because we're on a,
but we're live.
We're on a, what's it called? A hotspot. Having internet issues. We're on a hotspot.
Oh Lord. Well, give us a moment, and hopefully our connection will come through with flying colors. But good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Hello, welcome.
For one of the last times we'll be doing our show on a Thursday.
Yeah, we actually and sadly our main guest Andrew Yang had to postpone, so we're going to be doing. He's a busy man. We actually knew that might be the case, and which is why we said we gave him the out, but they're like, no, we could do it. So he spread himself thin. So we will be doing interviewing him on Saturday. And what time is it our time that we're doing it?
It will be at 12 p.m.
12 p.m. on Saturday. So we have a show Saturday and Sunday. It's a bonus week.
We're getting a little bit.
It's a bonus
becoming
week.
A little too consistent. People are going to be seeing our mugs for.
But we just know that this Thursday night, and I know that we weren't sure if that would have an impact, but now I know that viewership is infinitely better not on Thursday nights.
Yeah, so you're going to have to bear with us with our connection not being tip-top this evening. Jen, you are moving.
We are moving. So, and I honestly don't know how many more days I'm going to be able to keep like all my stuff up and everything, but we'll see.
Yeah, it's a big step, my friend, a big step, but the show must go on, as the saying goes. And I'll be on the road. Starting tomorrow, I will be out of town for another week. I will be in New Jersey. I will be making a stop in Washington, D.C. for a couple of days, in one day, possibly Philadelphia, possibly Boston, possibly Buffalo. I'm getting around. So we'll see what happens.
Fun.
Yeah, right. It'll be fun for a minute. And I have my real estate exam to take, so that'll be even more fun. So without further ado, you guys know why you're here this evening. She is a upstart candidate in California's 30th congressional district. She is part of, I guess, what you would call the Yang Gang, Humanity Forward. She is all about not becoming pigeonholed as a political candidate, but focusing on the issues and how we can obviously have a better country. That seems to be the really big topic of discussion these days. And so without further ado, Aarika Rhodes, welcome to Generational Change. This is on me, this one right there. There we go.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited. And I just want to personally apologize for last week when I was supposed to come on. I feel really bad about that.
No worries. No worries. I feel bad that we're working on a hotspot right now with not great connection, and Andrew had to postpone till Saturday. So this is the nature of what happens when you do lives.
But if anybody can relate, you can, because you ran for office. So
That's the thing. But that's why we had even said to him, or Peter had looked at his schedule and said, "Oh, I see you're going to be here. Maybe you would want to do." And they're like, "No, we're good. All right." So, but it's not. It's just what happens.
And we got the email this morning, and they're like, second thought, I think we stacked our schedule a little too tight today.
So I do understand, but it's hard to not like. It's the idea of having big eyes and small stomach.
Look at who is here. Aaron.
Oh my God, do I miss you?
A very good friend of ours
from
South Florida, who is not nomading, but they're homesteading. He and his partner have property and they're homesteading, and I'm not going to give any more information away than that. Yes. But he is in a rural place, being very, very happy. One of the most amazing people that we met over the course of Jen running for office.
Yeah,
he's a great guy. And really speaks, to the nature of why we do what we do, Aarika. I mean, as we have said many a times, we don't share 100% of the ideology that Andrew Yang has, or even the Yang Gang has, but there is no denying what an amazing group of people the organization is, whether it is, we're talking about Humanity Forward, if we're just talking about the Yang Gang, it's all about positivity. And the negative connotations that are so deeply associated with politics in general has been taken to such a level at this point where you can't even have dialogue with people anymore. And so and again, we're not going to really dive too much into this, but one of your opponents in the primary had a supporter who was like, why doesn't Aarika do this and Aarika do that? And I'm like, why don't we talk about what Aarika is fighting for and what matters? Because at the end of the day, it's the policies that are what is going to bring us forward, as they say.
Right.
So why don't you introduce yourself, how you got started, how you got into this, and where things currently stand with your current race?
Awesome. Thank you. So my name is Aarika Rhodes. I'm an elementary school teacher. I teach K through 6th grade science. And what ended up happening was Trump got elected. And I said, I'm going to be very, very actively involved in the next Democratic primary. And that was like what I felt like I can do as a citizen, is just get very involved. And so I ended up, I supported Bernie when Bernie ran against Hillary. I'm sure you guys did as well. And then this cycle, I just heard Andrew on the Breakfast Club, and I really loved the positivity. He was very solution driven, data driven. He attracted people from all across the political spectrum, and I felt like that was really important. I don't agree with him on 100% of everything. I don't agree with anyone 100% of the time, and no one agrees with me 100% of the time. But I feel he's rational, reasonable, and genuinely trying to solve problems. And so that took me to Iowa, New Hampshire, Nevada, like all over, campaigning for him. And then when he suspended, I was like, there's so many injustices happening. We had George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, the pandemic, kids sitting in parking lots trying to access their education. We had kids that weren't even able to get food because of the school closures, like all these different things. And so I filed. And then within the first 72 hours, our campaign raised over $25,000. And by August, we had $50,000. And now we are the biggest contender to Brad Sherman. We have 6 figures, almost $200,000 cash on hand, all grassroots, all small dollar donations, no corporate PAC money, no big banks, just everyday people deciding that they also want change. And I'm really proud of that. And so for me, what I'm running for is to be on the Education and Labor Committee in Congress. I think a lot of the problems stem from education, and that we need education reform and foster care reform. And so, because when I think of like homelessness or the increase in homelessness in my district, when I talk to a lot of people, they are from the foster care system. And then once we did some digging and we looked at the data, 75% of people that experience homelessness came from the foster care system. And so for me, that stops the bleeding. And it's something that no one really talks about. And so that's kind of where our race is. And I'm excited to answer any questions that you guys deem as important.
Yeah. So first I wanted to say that the concept of being completely grassroots, which is we only platform non-corporate candidates. That's just the way it works here. But isn't it extremely powerful feeling? Like, if you win that way, like when somebody wins that way, you are only accountable to people. Like
exactly.
It's very powerful, I think, like, first of all, and yeah, the foster care system in and of itself is one whole situation. But then what happens to people that age out is a huge problem. And I actually learned about this. I had a friend when I lived in Texas who was head of it was through UPS's charitable fund, but it was an organization that dealt with the transition for getting them set up. And it's a huge problem, and they really fall through the cracks. Yes. So I think that, yeah. So I appreciate that is something that you're bringing attention to, because that isn't one of the top 3 things that gets brought up. And I think it's really important.
It is really important. And campaign finance is not the sexiest thing to run on. You can't win running on campaign finance reform, but we need campaign finance reform so everyday people like myself can have a chance. And the fact that I work full-time as a teacher and have been able to achieve that, that means that when we win in 2022, this race means something. And we have to start getting elected officials that are only beholden to people, and I think that's really, really important. And something that I care very deeply about is democracy dollars. So people that don't have disposable income can participate in the election process and have their voices heard. Like, I just was at a luncheon recently, and I'm thinking, like, the average person can't go to this. I had to use a personal day. Who can, like, not everyone can just shove out $50 per ticket. Like, that in and of itself is an injustice. But to get there, you kind of have to go to these luncheons, right? It's like, a double-edged sword, damned if you do, damned if you don't. But if we had democracy dollars and ranked choice voting, then it allows everyday people to participate, and it weeds out the Brad Shermans of the world, because he's not the only incumbent that's this way. We're seeing what Joe Manchin's doing, Kristen Sinema, right? So it just makes it more fair.
You're absolutely right. And again, we say this all the time. Corporate special interest money is the issue of our time. There are a lot of issues that matter, and I don't want to take anything away from what people feel are the primary issues that concern them. But if we do not deal with the fact that our government is bought and paid for by corporate special interests, nothing is ever going to change. This is a point that we are going to hammer home very hard with Andrew when he comes on, because I think he's an incredible pitch person. I think his idea actually has a lot of potential, because I think he has a lot of credibility. But I also think that people need to stop with the labels: progressive, moderate, conservative. As long as you are not corporate, we can have a conversation, because I don't have to worry about whether or not you are being genuine or disingenuous. I don't want to have to worry about that. It's clear as day what Kirsten Sinema and Joe Manchin are doing.
No, well, her it's not, because she just obviously doesn't care about being reelected.
But she's being very transparent. What I'm saying is
no, she's like, she's putting her whoredom all out there for the world to see.
They're just like, hey, this is how I am. But the reality is, the Brad Shermans of the world, and there are a lot of others in California. Not everybody, as we like to say, is, Barbara Lee, Ro Khanna, or Katie Porter. No. There's not really that many that, even if they're Democrats, we know it's a supermajority Democratic state, but not any blue won't do.
Nope.
And so what are the distinct differences? I would assume, one obviously would be Medicare for all, UBI. What are some of the distinctions for you as a candidate, obviously, from the current incumbent, aside from the fact that, yes, I happen to know that Mr. Sherman takes his healthy share of corporate money. But aside from that, where do the differences lie? And where do you think that will ultimately lead you to victory in regards to where the electorate stands?
I think everything is, I'm different from him in every way. Just having an African-American female represent this district is something that we've never had before. So it makes it a historic race. Advocating for everyday people is something that he does not do. That is absolutely something I will do. Prioritizing our youth and the next generation, and making sure that their voices are heard and elevated, and that they can have a country that they can live in and flourish in, like the Green New Deal, making sure that we're being mindful of the environment. And so that's something, he's in the Progressive Caucus, but he's not really advocating for a hardcore these policies. And he could be. There's so much buy-in for all these things that we obviously on this panel share. We just share the same interests, and he could be advocating, leveraging Katie Porter's ideas. Like, she actually is, her seat, by the way, is at risk. And so if you like Katie Porter, please support her, donate to her.
Oh yeah. Thank you for telling us that, because I love Katie Porter.
Oh, we cannot lose her.
No.
But her seat's at risk because of the gerrymandering, which is a whole nother issue. And I also think, for me, it's not just about passing votes. It's about being a public servant. Like, I'm the kind of person that throws their hair up in a ponytail. I'm out there doing community cleanups. I'm at the food bank every Tuesday, unless there's just something that I absolutely can't get out of, but I'm at the food bank. I'm literally starting community programs to help leverage families that can't afford after school care and help get the financial burden off. Our campaign is deeply, deeply rooted in community service. Every month we do something that gives back. And I think
you found your spirit animal.
Yeah, I mean, we did that. That's how we ran our whole campaign. We were always a service campaign, and that was very important.
And I think that that's the whole appeal of Humanity Forward. It's about service above self, service to the community. Like, that to me is everything. And it's very appealing, because most people care about who represent them, but most people hate politics. Yeah. Like, they don't like the games.
Hey, let her finish though. Sorry.
Oh no, I love what you're saying. I agree with him. He's fine. It's just that for me, if we want our community to get better, people need to be able to find ways that they can help. Like, again, not everyone can donate to my campaign, but someone can come and help at the food bank, or help volunteer at the diaper drive. Like we did sneakers, like a sneaker drive for our foster youth. They can help sort the sneakers into the bin. So when we take it to the foster care agency, and it allows people to say, you know, I might not be able to financially give, or I don't have the time to door knock or phone bank, but I can be of service. And for me, one of the greatest things that we've done service-wise is our lending library program, because my vision is to create a community of readers, and that is a community effort. So you can go to different neighborhoods in our district and see our lending libraries that have been built and painted and books collected by young people. And so that's people saying, you know what? Yeah, I want kids to read. We know that the pandemic threw a dynamite in our education system, expanding, you know, just blowing it up, the disparities in our education system. So now we're finding different ways to activate people and get kids excited about things and the parents excited about reading or whatnot. So I think being a community service campaign is the greatest thing I've ever done. And if we lose, good came out of our campaign. And that is amazing.
Have you been like watching?
That was the whole point.
I was rooting for Jen when she ran.
Oh, that's so sweet. Like that was the whole point of what we did was I'm just going to make it part of the snowball regardless of what happens.
And
I do think that
right attitude.
And I do think that if the left, and I hate even using, I don't even want to label, but I just mean the people that are trying to move us in a forward direction to benefit the most people. Okay. But that's just a very lengthy word to say every time. But the people on our team don't do that enough. The people on our team tend to run when it's time for office, and then they fall away. Now, I'm not saying they're not doing things in their own right and help. I'm not saying that, but they're not keeping the momentum of the campaign in that movement, you know? And so I think that it's like one of those, you know, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Like we could be doing better with that. And so I'm pleased that you're doing that. And I hate to say this, I'm extremely ignorant, but where is 30? Where is California?
So the 30th district is West San Fernando Valley. So that's like 15 minutes from Hollywood. So it starts from Studio City and it kind of works its way all the way to like Bell Canyon, Porter Ranch, Sherman Oaks, Granada Hills. So pretty much the West Central Valley.
Okay. All right. So my husband's from out there and my father-in-law lives in Calabasas. And so I'm familiar with that area. So that makes it easy for me to, you know, visualize.
Hey, you know what? I have no doubt that Mr. Sherman, while he doesn't seek the spotlight like his neighboring representative, Mr. Schiff, does, I'm sure they have a lot of similarities.
That's a very diverse district too. That's an extremely diverse district.
But, and Aarika, if you can talk about that, because you mentioned Sherman Oaks, which is one of the wealthier suburbs in Los Angeles.
Yeah, but that cuts across where she is.
But here's the problem. I have no doubt that one of the biggest problems in her district is that the wealthy are the ones who are voting and the working class are the ones who are not voting as much. Is voter turnout going to be one of the key ingredients, especially in the more working class areas like the San Fernando Valley that you were talking about, that maybe generally speaking, they don't normally come out and vote in, let's say, primary elections?
I feel very, very confident they're going to come out and vote for me. I filed literally a year ago. So we've been at this for a year, building a name within the community. So a lot of the things that I do are just in the community. So our name is definitely getting out there. It's actually surreal that like when people even stop and say, oh my God, you're Aarika, I'm voting for you. You know, it's like, that's how I know our name is, you know, so I feel confident people will vote, but we still have to keep going because like, this is not for certain because of the FEC filings not completely cleared up. But from my understanding is that Brad Sherman just transferred about $500,000 to the race because we put up such big Q3 numbers and now we have so much cash on hand. And so because he's actively campaigning, it's also leveraging our campaign too. He's not wildly popular, even amongst people that have a lot of money. I think my district is so special and people wanting real change and a different style leadership. They want someone that cares and that's transparent and for real about this. And I'm very for real about this. You don't, Jen, you know, you don't file to do this for like us, like going the harder route, right? You don't do this and go through everything we're going through. Wake up at 4, go to bed at 11, 7 days a week for a year to not win or to bring the change. And people see that. I give my community a lot of credit. I think that they're smart and they know which name to check on the ballot box. I feel very confident about it.
No, that's great. Is there anyone else in that? Is there anyone else in the primary?
You have Shervin Azami as well. I think there's another candidate that's also running. I mean, look.
Wait, you're running against Shervin.
Yeah,
they are all running against Sherman.
No. I know that, but now I'm understanding. But okay, but God, that's amazing. Like that people in your district even have that kind of a choice.
But I think I want to be very clear. I am not like the other candidates. I am my own person. And we are the most viable. We're the only campaign that has the cash to compete with Brad. Everyone else has less than $20,000 cash on hand. And Brad Sherman, as of now, has over $3.5 million cash on hand. So the candidate to get behind is me, because I'm the most likely to unseat him. And I was the one that filed first. I didn't do an exploratory committee. I didn't do, I really have been at this for the longest and the most viable to win. And Aarika, so I'm very excited.
Very good pitch. Yeah. That's a good pitch.
And I got to tell you, and this is one of the things that a lot of people have a hard time hearing in the progressive movement, but especially when you are in the second most expensive market in the country, if you think you're running for a U.S. congressional office and you don't have at least a few $100,000 in cash on hand for TV ads and mailers in the neighborhoods you have to hit that you cannot canvass.
It's unfortunate but true.
It is a reality that people don't want to accept but have to come to terms with.
It's just a reality.
Come to terms with it. And even for me, reconciling, like, why do we have to raise $1 million? Like, as a teacher, I don't even think about $1 million. I've never had $1 million. I couldn't even transfer $10,000 into my campaign, let alone $500,000 or $750,000, right? So the reality is, if you're going up against someone like a Brad Sherman or any long-term incumbent that gets corporate PAC money, you have to have money. But for me, I have personally walked away from a lot of money because it wasn't just the way that they've gotten their money or who they are, or what they're associated with, or what they're about. I did not want to be beholden to. And I'm like, I'd rather go the longer, moral, just way and the harder way than the quick, easy way. Because as someone like me, yes, it's easy. Like, you can be 20 max donors, but I have to do this. No, thanks. No, thanks. I'd rather just keep going $5, $10, $20. Yep. I think that's what makes this so special. And I'm so glad that you pointed out that you have to have, unfortunately, this kind of money to be competitive. It's really
but we are all on the same page that we'd prefer it not be that way. I mean, I support publicly financed elections, which I understand that's what democracy dollars is. It's like intending to bring about that. But I actually think that there should be no private money in elections whatsoever. I think you should qualify, whatever the number is you need to qualify, and then everybody gets allocated the same amount of money that is like we used to do in high school.
And let's be honest.
That's just how it should be. It shouldn't be, we shouldn't have any money. It shouldn't be a money thing.
Mr. Sherman does not have $500,000 on hand. His corporate donors do, when they notice that his race may actually be a toss-up. And so once that happens, now they have to flood the airwaves. And that's how they see it. Because they know that, and again, this is what it comes down to. They feel threatened. But this is what it comes down to. Corporate special interests in Southern California do very well with Mr. Sherman in office. He plays ball. If somebody like you is in office, you're not necessarily going to play ball. And so that scares the hell out of them, because again, they are banking on this corrupt system to continue working in their favor. And that's where this whole concept of, we really want to try to turn something, we want to turn this into something really special, where we recognize that you are the embodiment of it. It is all about not taking that corporate special interest money,
and transitioning politics to service.
Yeah. Beautiful. What more could you ask for?
That's the whole, transforming politics to service.
And I just want to plug, because I think this is important. He is also beatable. He can keep raising millions and millions of dollars.
Oh, yeah.
But passion, hard work, persistence, grit, perseverance will trump him in 2022. He can please keep raising money. Please keep raising money, because that means we're going to outdoor knock you. We're going to out phone bank you. We're going to out service you. We are in this to win. And I will not rest until we win in 2022. When June 7th, 2022 comes, it's going to be like, we gave it every single thing that we have. Like, that's why I have bags in my eyes. I'm like,
you do not.
Because I'm like, because we're really giving this all we have. And
you look like someone that I would have to ID to see if you're old enough to run for Congress.
No, bro, it's a lot of makeup.
So I'm just saying, you know.
Let's as we wind down the conversation, let's address the elephant in the room, and that, of course, is labor. It's obviously something that we are 100% behind. But as we know, there's a huge difference between the rank and file in the labor movement and the leaders and the bosses. There is a huge difference between people who are in the labor movement who are going to support your candidacy and the unions, and whether or not they will come to your side. One that, of course, comes to mind is the teachers union, and whether or not, as a fellow teacher, they are even considering you for an endorsement. How are things going with the labor movements and the union organizations within your district? California is a much stronger labor union state than Florida is, and we have our own serious problems down here.
What are the problems in Florida with your labor?
Well, it's aside from the fact that Wasserman Schultz is more or less in charge of the Florida Democratic Party, there is also the big element of right to work, which is a huge problem in the state of Florida. It takes away labor's ability.
They're neutered.
Yeah,
our unions are neutered.
There's as a good friend who we won't name, but is in the firefighters union, said, it's not collective bargaining, it's collective begging. And that is a huge problem. And so it ties their hands with their bosses and the money pushers who basically say, yeah, we understand that this representative isn't good for labor, but we're going to endorse them anyway. And so that's a huge problem that we face here. How are things on your end in Southern California?
We personally haven't received any endorsements. The endorsements process are just now starting to open up for our district. We don't even have like the dates for just the candidate statement yet. So California is a little bit weird. And this is my first time running, but we haven't received any endorsements, but we will seek them.
How has the local party been to you?
I think that they want to see me win.
But okay, so they want to see you win, but they're not going out on a limb.
I think once we raise $1 million, that will be our tipping point, and I think everything will shift our way. I think we just have to get to this $1 million goal that I set for January 30th. We're just going for it. When you're an underdog, you just go for it. But I think that will be our tipping point. And then once we hit $1 million, and I think people will be like, all right, that's our girl. He's not wildly popular.
That's right.
Anyone. I think one of my friends actually tweeted out today, because he phone banks everyone, his name is Jeannie. He has called 500 people, and only 2 people said they like him. And he's not, he's so beatable. And so it's the money, it's the $1 million is more to just help build name recognition.
We have been told by a number of people in labor that the number that unions look for is $1 million. It's just sort of that number.
It's like that $1 million. So this is what it is. It's $50,000 to be considered viable. That's cash on hand. And we're the only candidate to have way more than that. So then once you have that, then people reach out to you, and then they want to have the conversations. Then you get the 6 figures cash on hand. Then you bring in a different group of people.
Yeah.
And the $1 million, that's it. Then that's the position. However, I think this is awesome. We have more than what Cori Bush had at this time, her second run. That's how viable we are. And she was able to unseat her incumbent. And so we believe that come 2022, when the midterms become now everyone's talking about the midterms, we really believe that's when our campaign's going to leverage, hit our tipping point. We win our primary. But you have 2 Democrats for the first time in 12 years on the ballot. And we believe that's going to get thrown our way. That's what we're thinking. So it's just going to be about hitting this $1 million goal. That's really the biggest thing for us. And then endorsements obviously matter. We want not any endorsement, but we want the good endorsements.
Yeah.
But we're going to seek them. But if we don't get endorsements because of the politics, as you guys know, politics, how that works.
Little P.
We can still pull this off. I feel more confident now than I ever have. And we're not quitting ever.
I want you to have the opportunity to talk about the Yang Gang and the impact that that group, this amazing group of grassroots volunteers, the impact that they had on Jen's race. No one came close. I say this all the time. If you want, who do you want in your foxhole if you're running for office? You want the Yang Gang, period. There is no one who is going to bust their ass. No one who's going to do the unsexy stuff like getting on, being a precinct committee leader, or the phone banking or the text banking or knocking on doors. There is a commitment to doing the work that is so awe-inspiring. And I have no doubt, because your confidence and your exuberance just shines through. And I have no doubt that because of their support and because of their commitment, it really makes a difference in how you feel about this race. If you want to share your thoughts on that.
It's the Yang Gang sentimental to me, because that's how I got really deeply in politics. Like, I've always voted, I've always paid attention, but when you go into Iowa and you're like walking in snow and you are like in airports passing and high-fiving each other, there's nothing like that. And the Yang Gang did something special during the Andrew Yang campaign. We knew how to trend something on Twitter. We were very active. We worked together. And they gave me my seed money. Like, when I first announced, most of that money came from them. And I will forever be indebted to the Yang Gang and their support, and Andrew, because our campaign would not be where it is today without their support. And I also have to say, my parents, my dad was the one that said, "Go file." He's like, "Go do it." He's like, "We will support you. It'll be hard, but you're a fighter and you care about this. Go file." And you have our support to the end. So I'd say my parents and the Yang Gang and former parents and not current parents, but my former, at the time when I filed, all gave me my seed money to leverage our campaign. And so the Yang Gang is diverse and eclectic, but passionate and want change. And that's what makes it so special.
Yeah.
Final thought. What Andrew is attempting to do now, obviously, is pretty monumental, and we will talk about it with him.
He adores you guys.
He's a good guy.
We have a mutual admiration society. And you know what? It's frustrating when people, have given grief for supporting him when on his campaign trail, either for president or mayor, he said things they didn't like, didn't agree with, things I didn't necessarily like and didn't agree with. And it's like, but you people have no concept as to the kind of people that we want to be on our team. People that are wanting to help. People that are in this for, and people that support ideas based on reason. And that was a big thing to me. He is extremely reasonable, and he's just somebody who is just in this for the right reasons. And I think that, to me, trumps so much of that other crap and tribalism. And I just wish more people got that.
The left has a very big problem with building coalitions.
Yes.
It is their weakest point. There is way too much altruism. There's way too much perfection that is demanded.
It's like purity tests left and right. And it's tiresome, and it's unproductive.
And it really hurts because, again, you're not going to get everything you want. But if you can come to the consensus that if corporate special interests is what is the most pressing issue of our time, then get along, recognize that a moderate may not agree with you on everything, but the core issues, the concrete issues that we're fighting for, whether it is, and listen, there's a lot of people in MMT who refuse to, talk about UBI, but you know what? Friend of the show, friend of the Yang Gang movement, Scott Stantons just wrote an amazing article about the need for MMT and UBI to come together. That's what forward thinking is all about. And that's what I think this whole movement, this whole new party, if you will, is potentially got a shot of doing something here, because as you saw, they smeared the hell out of him when he announced it. My attitude is, well, if they're hitting him hard, that must mean they don't like what he's doing.
They always, you know what? And I'm in the middle of listening to his book, and it's great because he narrates it. Again, it's my thing. I don't read anymore. I feel like I'm above reading. I've transcended reading. I like being read too, but I'm listening to his book, and it's like his attitude about all these people coming at him and smearing, like his attitude about it is just so like, It's almost like when you were a kid and you would just go about your business and do your thing no matter what. Like he's just doing his thing and he just lets it roll off his back. And I find that incredibly impressive.
And then he's doing his thing, not ever attacking or being mean to anyone else.
Absolutely.
And
Always.
And I think that's what I like about him. I don't agree with him 100% of the time. I don't agree with anyone 100% of the time, but he has character. You know, my dad always drilled this into me since I was a little girl. Seek perfection of character. Just try to be the best person you can be. And that's why in my race, we run a very clean campaign. Like we're all about policies, about the issues. And no matter how many times anyone in this race attacks me, I don't reciprocate that. Because you want to know why? The change and the policies and getting things done is far more important than attacking me, especially if we have most of the same shared interests and we agree on like 99.9 of things. It doesn't make sense and it gets us nowhere. It's unproductive. And honestly, at what point do you just get tired of just being mean to people? To me, it's really exhausting.
Let me tell you, I got off social media because I can't take it anymore. The people are just too mean. And, you know, it's not about not having thick skin. I have thick skin. It's not that I care what you think. It's I don't need all that negativity in my brain. I don't need that kind of brain poison. I think that stuff actually affects your health. I think it affects your it's spirit crushing. And
if you don't like how I run my campaign or Andrew or Bernie or whoever it is, you run. Like you go run for office.
Yeah.
And because you can do that. If you meet the basic, it's like it's not a huge list of requirements to run for office. You go run and you go run it the way you want to do it. And then you can see how hard it is to do it. It's hard to get people to do the unsexy things like door knock, phone bank, write postcards or whatever, however you're trying to reach out to voters. It is hard. And so I applaud any person, and it's different now as a candidate, but any person that tries to get change, because the alternative is that we keep the status quo. And we know the status quo is regressive. It doesn't move us forward in any way, shape, or form. So I encourage people to focus on support the people that are really genuinely trying to get the change. And we can respectfully agree to disagree. And that's it. It doesn't have to be a character assassination because most people are good people. Most people are just genuinely good for the most part.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think you're an
exception.
exception.
Can I say one more thing? I'm sorry. Can I say one more thing? And because this is very important. And young kids are watching. And that's another thing that really irks me with the political climate is that for the first time in my 10 years of teaching, since Trump got elected, I haven't had one kid in my classroom say that they want to be the president of the United States. And prior to Trump, I've always had a kid that wanted to be a president. And so the toxicity of the political climate is trickling down to our young kids. And ironically, the other day I was teaching my kindergartners, I read them the book, What Do You Do with an Idea? And the end of it is to change the world. I asked 5 and 6 year olds, like, how can you change the world? And one kid, I kid you not, said, we can teach the adults how to be nice to one another.
Yeah.
I kid you not. So if any other reason, the young people, let's do it for them.
As you know, at the end of the day, when it comes to getting the normie voter to vote for you, they just have to like you.
Yeah.
And if they like you,
it's the truth.
That's unfortunate. That is a big difference between a Democratic voter and a Republican voter.
Yes.
Republicans put much more emphasis, and to their credit, much more emphasis on policy than personality. But with that said, know your audience, know what you have to do. And the reality is you are a very welcome sight. You are a very engaging and warm person. And that is going to come through with voters. It just does. I don't know what you stand for, but I like you. I think you're a nice person. And that will get them to go, yes, at the ballot box. And so let's definitely continue this conversation. It is very nice.
We'll definitely have candidaents back on next year.
100%.
Next year.
Maybe we make a trip to California.
You have a lot of trips.
California way. Well, hey, any chance we get to, lend a hand, we're all about that. And, we're really about,
put the website up.
Building that network that is absolutely necessary. And so, guys, if you can.
Share the love.
AarikaforCongress.com. Remember, they are doing very well with fundraising, but they can always use a little more.
Yeah, and honestly, if you just go there and just follow all the social media and share, that stuff really helps too, guys.
And if there's one thing we can tell you about any campaign that is based on the Yang Gang and Humanity Forward, they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
So if you want to know how to best get involved, if you happen to be in Southern California, if you happen to be anywhere in California, you happen to be in Vegas, you happen
He
to
thinks
be...
that everything is just a drive away.
Oh, I do.
I know. He's like, well, yeah, he's just like, everything's a drive away no matter where you live.
Well, all right. So let me do it one better. Okay?
By the way, just getting from one place in California to another place, getting from one end of her district to the other could be a 2-hour ordeal.
Well, that's very true. So if you happen to be, if you happen to be in LA County, if you happen to be in Riverside County, if you happen to be in San Bernardino County, hell, if you're in Orange County, if you're in Ventura County, if you have the opportunity to go knock on some doors, phone bank, text bank, contribute some, spread the word. That's how we're going to do this, guys. And we do agree with Aarika. And we have no doubt that there are other good candidates in the race. But at the end of the day, viability
matters.
That is the only way you can win. And
it's unfortunate.
So viability is there. And we have somebody here who, regardless of what anybody else has to say, no corporate special interest money. And that is what it comes down to. We are thrilled to have had you on, Aarika.
Thank you.
Hope to see you again soon.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Have a good night.
Bye.
See you later. What can you say?
She's a great candidate.
She's like your doppelganger.
She's a great candidate, but it looks like I kind of felt a little bit of, not that I was the person who made it so she had that campaign, but the fact that she was following us, I kind of I'm like, that's cool. Like it's starting to take root, the idea of campaigns as part of progress and using them as service.
Matt Skidmore, amazing guy, somebody who really you want to talk about like Andrew's best social media extraordinaire, goes to his events, captures it live. Amazing job, brother. As we said, Andrew will be here on Saturday at noon for an hour. So we're going to have a nice long conversation with him about his book, which is a great book, by the way.
I'm listening to.
It's such a great read.
It's so you're reading it?
Of course I'm reading.
Okay, I forgot that I gave you the
That's right.
Okay, so Andrew sent the show a book for us to read, for him to come on the show, and I have taken to enjoying audiobooks. But the audio, we got a copy of the book before it was actually released, but it wasn't on audio that early. So you had a head start before I was able to start listening. So I am still in it, but and I actually felt a little bit today like, okay, good, I'll be more prepared on Saturday. So we're sorry, guys, but it wasn't us. We will blame Andrew.
No, we're not.
I'm just saying that it's not like we didn't drop a ball or anything.
But for those that are here now and that are listening to the podcast, we are definitely on the progressive left. We definitely have a lot of libertarian leanings, which in a lot of ways is just kind of where Andrew falls. And that doesn't mean that is where we agree 100% of the time. But what we do like to say, and this is no disrespect to the People's Party, the Green Party, the Libertarian Party, whoever is tired of the two-party duopoly, and we're tired of it, and we're Democrats, but we're tired of it, and we know it. If you want to build a viable third party, you have to have credibility, you have to have appeal, and you have to be able to fundraise without corporate special
interest. And quite
honestly,
money. You need a leader. And it's unfortunate that that's the case.
How this country works.
And even leaders such as Bernie, and I hate to say leaders because it's not a cult, it's not a thing, but somebody that is sort of like the beacon of that is very appealing, unfortunately, is something that is necessary. And Andrew is extremely likable. Yeah. That's just the way it is. And so that makes it viable to me.
Oh, Carol, love you, babe. Hope you're doing well. This is a podcast. I hope you're enjoying it. Stop by more. We have really great conversations, a lot of interesting conversations with a lot of different candidates.
But we are, because Andrew is not coming on till Saturday, we're going to do tonight's show. Like, I think we should wait and do it.
Yeah, we'll wait. That's fine.
And do our usual, but we will have our news and amuse. We do have a bootlicker, although come another day and a half, there could be 2 bootlickers. You never know.
Yeah, you never know. And again, this is
a lot of things are happening.
The whole thing about the viability of the third party, as we talked about with those 3 components, the credibility factor, that's the ground. And so now, as we talked about the other day, when you have and we're getting a twofer this weekend.
Oh, but I do want to talk about the thing that happened with the Sun Sentinel when
sure,
you're done.
we'll talk about that. We'll finish with that.
I want to talk about that.
And you have Aarika coming on this evening, fantastic conversation. Andrew will be on Saturday, special edition. And then on Sunday, one of Andrew's big supporters, and as we talked about, you need influencers that are going to help grow this thing. And that influencer is none other than Kim Iverson.
So Kim will be here on Sunday.
And she is
well, she won't be here.
No, but she is in with the forward party.
Yeah.
She says, this is the way we got to go. And she believes in Andrew's ability to lead. And you know what?
That's awesome.
I believe in his ability to lead because he's got this very warm, genial approach to this thing, which nobody ever sees in politics. It's almost like, why aren't you an asshole?
Right.
You need to be. That's how this is. Don't you get it?
So before we start losing people, I want to talk about something that was brought to my attention. I do not read the Sun Sentinel. The Sun Sentinel is our local paper. I call it a rag. I think it's a hack publication.
This is another one of those blockers for Debbie Wasserman Schultz.
Yeah, they're
at the local level, especially with the older population. Sun Sentinel is the newspaper of Broward County.
And we've called them out before. We called them out not that long ago for writing a smear piece on Sheila Sherfless McCormick, who is one of the candidates for Congressional District 20.
There's only 2 candidates running that are viable that are not taking corporate special interest money. So they took their shot at Sheila, and now
they came after Omari.
Omari.
So I want to, this is something that was brought, again, I didn't see it and I can't read it because I can't get it without subscribing.
You continue. Elvira, Andrew Yang is for Medicare for all. There's the end of that conversation. Just want to let you know.
Yeah, he supports Medicare for all.
Okay.
So, all right. Anyway, so the Sun Sentinel came out with a piece in their op-ed. They're very, and this is a guy who I think was a Trump supporter who wrote this piece, but it's no surprise.
You talk about the rabbi.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it's no surprise that the Sun Sentinel would print something anti-Omari Hardy. And what they went after him for was apparently his support of the BDS movement. And I have a problem with this on so many levels, but primarily I loathe when people use their Judaism and they play the anti-Semite card when they know damn well that being against BDS is anti-Semitic. It's just not, we're not buying it anymore. It's just not. Zionism and Judaism, 2 different things. And I know a lot of Jews, myself included, who do not support the same mission as you do, and do not appreciate you using our religion and calling somebody an anti-Semite who I know is not an anti-Semite. So I am just so tired of people playing that card. But anyway, and it pisses me off to no end that our local paper does that. And unfortunately, a lot of the older community here, that is their news source. Yeah. And so it bothers me. This is the kind of crap that our congressperson does. The same kind of thing. You play that card over. Well,
it's always about that.
And it's, you know what? And the problem is, it diminishes the importance of actual anti-Semitism, which is a real thing. See, that's a real problem. And so when you do this and you always do that, play that card, it's infuriating. And Omari he's good people.
Yes.
And Omari is somebody that, and so when I see a headline, because that's all that could peer through without me subscribing, was Omari Hari must not get elected or must not, whatever it says, he'd be an excellent person to have there. So it's very upsetting to me. So screw the Sun Sentinel. It is a hack publication. And Omari Hardy is not an anti-Semite.
There is a distinction that doesn't get talked about enough between Judaism and Zionism. It's a huge problem. And down here, it's very insulated. This is the 2nd largest Jewish population in the United States. And there's a exceptionally older Jewish population down here. And a lot of them are either Holocaust survivors, if they're still alive, or they are descendants of Holocaust survivors. So to say that
it's triggering,
the fear mongering is effective,
yes,
would be an understatement.
And they know it.
They know.
See, that's the thing. This isn't that these people that are writing these hit pieces and they don't think that he's really anti-Semitic. They know that he's not.
No.
They know that. I've realized it since as an adult. I have realized how that card's been played, and I've seen the people do it my whole life growing up in Jewish South Florida, and they play that card. I grew up thinking all sorts of people were anti-Semitic that now I know really aren't. And I'm not even going to get into naming names, but stop that and stop buying into that nonsense. Yeah. That was what that, and then something else that I
and there is real anti-Semitism.
We've
seen it
for sure, but it isn't coming from people like Omari Hardy and Ilhan Omar.
But you know what it's like? It's no different than when people were calling Bernie a sexist and a racist and a misogynist and all that. And then when you had a real sexist, misogynist, even racist, who ultimately was able to get to the highest level, because you dilute the value of what you're espousing.
Right.
You make it seem like, oh, well, I guess everybody is. So
right.
What the hell?
Right.
And that is all about political gamesmanship.
They're using it. They're using it. It's like a card. I can't stand it.
And let's be honest. Would they really be doing this if they didn't think that Omari had a chance to win? They wouldn't give two craps about it if he was just some fly-by-night candidate. But clearly, they're afraid that he might win.
And here's the thing, more importantly, let's say that that the issue really for them is BDS. What do they think he's going to do about that? Why is that a reason to like somebody for Congress or not like somebody for Congress? It's not something that he has any control over. It's not anything like it is using something that is irrelevant.
This is no different than the people who are literally coming on our threads on social media because we support India Walton. And they think that if a socialist gets elected, that's the end of the United States. The fear mongering works. It really does.
It's unfortunate.
Do you know how many socialists at the city mayoral level you would have to elect in the United States to have this country look something like a Scandinavia region? Probably 100, 150. Good luck getting there, but that's probably how many it would take. So even having one get there allows them this whole idea of no, we can't allow one. What are you afraid of? That people might actually be able to live better lives?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. What they really dislike about him isn't that. What they really dislike about him is that he supports a social safety net and helping people that are not the haves.
Yeah.
That's why they don't like him. They're using this to sort of like, make him a villain. All right. But I also had a muse that was very interesting that came across. I was watching, I don't know what it was, probably like Reuters or one of the things where I'm watching. And it was this anti-vaxxing rally with the crazies that are like just so like they're like violent about it almost, right? Like this is okay. And you see all these people that are shouting, my body, my choice, my body, my choice. And I had this thought, I would love to see a cross study of the amount of people that are saying my body, my choice about not getting vaccines, but they don't support a woman's right to choose.
Yeah.
I would bet you, and just from looking at the people in the crowd, and I know not a scientific study, that there is a significant crossover with people that think my body, my choice for vaccinations, not my body, my choice for reproductive freedom. I'm just saying. I just thought that was kind of like that they're using that slogan specifically.
Can't have one without the other.
My body, my choice. That's our slogan.
Yeah. And again, we're vaccinated. It's people are going to find any excuse to cling on tighter or just completely throw caution to the wind. We are so divided today that we are now living in a situation where people are not being allowed to live their lives as they see fit. I think that there are circumstances where you kind of don't have a choice. There are certain places that are going to have mandates. You see what's happening with some of the NBA players. If New York City has a mandate.
But there's industries that are definitely hurting because they're not being able to have employees. People are walking out. There's a lot of, I just saw a whole report on this. There's a lot of places that are having a lot of problems.
They're going to lose. This is a fight that they can't maintain forever. It's not going to work. You can't force people. Again, we do not believe in forcing people to do something.
No,
you can't. If people want to choose to get sick or they want to choose to die, that's their prerogative.
And it is unfortunate for people that are vulnerable that they are living amongst these people. They are. It is. It's it's not a good thing. It doesn't please me that these people are like this, but I have very strong thoughts on civil liberties that are really very kind of all-encompassing.
And people just don't know their history, and they don't realize that once you give up, it's like with the woke mob. It's like what just happened with Dave Chappelle. If you don't like Dave Chappelle, then don't watch him. This is not complicated.
Oh my God.
it's again, it's
like, why is it that if somebody says something you don't like, they should never get to speak again, or nobody should ever like them? Can't it be that we say something like, yeah, I really don't agree with Dave Chappelle on his thoughts on this. I think they're very primitive and just very unenlightened, and it's unfortunate, and I don't find it funny, and that's sad too. But okay, so move on.
Yeah.
Like, why can't we, like, and as we evolve more and more, that mindset will be less and less good. Like that won't age well.
And what they also don't
And that's just what'll
realize, and
happen.
this is another example of what happens with the woke left, is that there is I'm trying to think of the right way to say this, but it's the result of unintended consequences. What you do and how you conduct yourself ends up having the opposite effect. You don't bring in more people that are supporting your cause. You get more people to be against your cause.
Right, just as a matter of principle.
And when you saw the people who were protesting the other day outside of the Netflix building.
This is all over Dave Chappelle?
This is all over Dave Chappelle. There was like maybe 25, 30 people there.
It's like if all those people got together and spent the day doing community service, imagine what they could have accomplished instead of hanging out and trying to get people to hate someone just because of what they said. Like, we need to stop worrying about what people say and think and just move on.
Let me know when somebody like Dave Chappelle says, kill trans people, because there are people in this country who talk like that. Focus on those people.
Well, that's threatening things.
That's correct.
Yeah, that's the only time.
But the violence that the trans community faces is very real.
And now one could argue that by having people that are big names such as him that are putting out this sort of negative thoughts and definitely being kind of transphobic, and in that is contributing to that. I don't necessarily disagree. I think it does. But I just think that we have to let things play out that are not directly threatening. And we just have to, in the name of our civil liberties, we have to let things play out. Over time, that won't age well. Over time, more and more people will look down upon that and think that that's small-minded. And I do believe that is happening. And that's how we contribute to this. We don't do it by censoring we don't do it that way.
People have to be able to live their lives as they see fit, and ultimately forced circumstance. Again, if you're an organization, if you want to not admit people, like let's say if they're not vaccinated, that's your prerogative. You could do whatever you want. But this idea that you have to force people, I know your history and know where this heads, because it ain't good.
No.
And that is something that very few people want to talk about it. If you can avoid talking about it, you avoid talking about it.
Talk about this.
If you really like our content.
And we actually normally, for people who know, we are not going to be doing Thursday evenings anymore. We were specifically doing this Thursday evening because we had Andrew Yang on the calendar. And then, of course, he rescheduled for Saturday. But then we had Aarika come on. And we didn't want to miss that. So we're getting we're getting a bonus show. But guys, if you like it and you're interested, subscribe. Obviously on YouTube, subscribe, and very important. But you can be a patron and get the Lulu sticker and get, and I have a new bracelet to send out, and you get a bracelet. And then if you're a $10 patron, you get the jersey, which is really cool.
Yeah, the jersey's
good stuff.
And so is our content.
Yes, we have good stuff. So we have Andrew coming on Saturday. We have Kim Iverson on Sunday.
And
that's exciting.
You have your friend Sam.
I'm getting to meet Sam from Reset Race. So I'm going to have to say that show won't be able to be monetized.
No,
I'm going to put that out there.
And you're going to have some fun probably talking about the faux.
I'm curious her thoughts on that. And I will say this, and I'm not going to give names because I don't want to get into the drama of it, but she really hates somebody who is a friend of ours.
Oh, really?
And it's interesting. And I'm not
off the air.
Yes, but I'm not. And we're going to definitely not go there with her. But I will just tell you that Wednesday night's show will not be able to be monetized. I can tell you, because I do appreciate Sam's candor.
Yeah, well, that's again. You need the firebrands.
Yeah. And we will be talking about reparations. Again, it's something that has to happen. It has to happen now. It's not something that.
And we're not pandering.
No, I'm not pandering. I see the nature of the importance of the nature of the collective, and you can't get. And here's the thing: is I now in my head, and I'm going to talk about this with Sam. I think that reparations is a two-part thing. Okay, it needs to be handled two pieces. First, we need to stop doing it. Because that's part of the problem, is all the stuff that is causing the need for reparations still happening. So the first part of reparations is to stop doing the shit that is requiring us to need reparations, okay? That involves reassessing agencies, our tax codes, housing, healthcare, everything has to be assessed in this manner, okay? So that's the first step. We got to stop doing it. And then the second part is actually cutting a check, and that has to happen. And that looks like different things. It definitely involves people who know what the needs are coming up with that. And I thought of this as well. If I'm suing somebody for treating me wrongly and for the damage that they did to me, I don't say, hey, you hurt me, and then wait for them to decide what they owe me. No, I'm going to tell you what my damages are. I'm going to tell you what you owe me. And that's how this needs to work. So the first part of reparations is stop doing it. And the second part is cut the check as to what the value is. And that needs to be determined by the people that have been hurt. That needs to be determined not by white people. That needs to be determined. So I don't know what it is, but we just need to cut the check. That's what I know. And until that happens, we are circling a drain, people.
And that's one of the reasons why it'll be an interesting conversation with Andrew on Saturday about UBI, because universal basic income may not be reparations at the level they need to be, but they are at least a way to mitigate one of the biggest issues we have, which is being able to lift people out of abject poverty.
Right. And let me be clear, that's completely separate from reparations.
Oh, 100%.
Reparations has to happen like that. That's
reparations
the thing. It's not an either or.
Reparations is systemic. And it's something that when you think about, my personal take on reparations is the idea that it's like redlining. And for those of you who don't know what redlining is, it basically means people who live in low-income areas, they are not able to get any loans from banks. They are not able to lift themselves up.
No, and not only that,
credit.
but when you don't address the systems that are causing that, do you know that a Black person and a white person with the exact same credit score do not get the same rates offered to them?
That's correct.
They do not get in the same neighborhoods. They do not get the same. It's all.
That's what we mean when we talk
all
about
systemic.
It. That's what we mean.
Hence, the first part of my reparations idea is stop doing that which is causing the need for reparations. So we need a committee of people. I think Marianne Williamson had a great in her policy. I got to
bring her back.
Well, we'll bring her back, but I believe she said for like a committee of no fewer than 30 people, and these are non-political people. These are academics, economists, people that understand all of these systems and how we need to fix these systems to accommodate the issue. So we don't need for example, Dorothy Brown wrote a book called The Whiteness of Wealth. She's a legal economist. I can't even tell you her credentials. I wanted to, but she said, I tried, you tried. But those are the kinds of people that need to come together and say, this is what needs to change in this system. This is what needs to change in this system, and put together. And then these things need to be implemented. And that's the thing. And simultaneously, we need to be giving money to people that have been hurt. It's not complicated. It's again, if you're a plaintiff, you say, these are my damages. So that's what I'm waiting them to tell me. What are their damages? And then we'll cut a check.
And that's humanity forward, people. We are looking forward to the conversation with Andrew. We hope you guys enjoyed the show this evening. And listen, you're not going to cut people with money out of the equation. People with money can actually make the difference as long as it's not corporate special interests. If a person believes in the cause and wants to give within the legal limits and spread the word to others that can do the same at much higher levels than the average person can, like Mark Cuban can. When people like that are supporting Andrew Yang, then you're onto something. So don't think for a second that we can't make this all happen. We can, but we have to recognize that the issue of our day is corporate special interest money, and that's what we're fighting against. And so, again, can't say enough about Aarika. One of the best candidates.
She was great.
One of the best candidates we've had on the show. No disrespect to anybody who's come on, but she's got a little bit of an it factor going on. So that's a great thing. And of course, viability adds to another layer to it as well.
So we're heading out. We're
So,
dwindling.
We appreciate you guys. We'll see you Saturday from Mr. Yang. Have a great night.